You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 51, your next game after a long campaign. Today we talk about your next game that you do after your long campaign. We discuss how to recharge your batteries and reset before your next chronicle. We also cover some of the pitfalls of jumping into the next game too fast. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person, he always has a follow-up to a good story, Jared.
Hey.
How you doing, Jared?
Not bad. How have you been?
I'm doing good. You can't quite complain right now. I've got a not right now, but in a couple months, I'm going to be taking a long trip to one of my brother's wedding, and then I'm going to be going to Charleston for 18 days in addition to that. So I'll be gone for like a full month. Out of Illinois, so this would be great.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations to your brother, as always.
Yes.
And I take it you're going to Charleston. You're going to visit Brian while you're in.
I'm hoping that we get to visit Brian. I mean, I don't know what things are going to look like COVID-wise around then.
Yeah.
He basically said, give me more of a heads up around that time. Like, let him know. Because you know, with everything that's going on with Kirsten's parents and stuff, you know, it's just...
Yeah. No, and everyone's level of personal safety.
Yeah, they've been more strict with everything they're doing down there too. So it's, you know, he said, you know, he'd probably make time to be able to come see me and whatnot. But
that'd be great. Yeah,
be good to see him. And it's also looking at different places in the U.S. to go live. That's not here.
It's funny because we're all looking for that.
At this moment, I'm kind of like, I don't want to be here long term. So let's see where else I can go.
No, I agree. Like, with all my travel, I know, like, I would love to move to Montana. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like, I just, I don't know if we haven't. Do we have any listeners in Montana? You see the statistics and stuff like that.
I'd have to take a look. I don't know. We have them from all over. We have listeners in like Colorado. We've got some in California, obviously Indiana. We've got a bunch here in Illinois.
That's fantastic. Love you all.
Yes, love you all. Thank you for listening. Share it with friends. We got our friends over there in Massachusetts, Maryland, that area.
I do like Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire. Those are really beautiful states. Did you know, supposedly, Vermont does not allow any billboards
really?
In the whole state because it destroys the beauty of the state.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
that. If it's true, that's pretty awesome. Like, go them. Like, I think it's fantastic because I was driving through New Hampshire, which is just right next to Vermont, and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So what is our topic for the day?
Yes, as we get back on topic.
Not on
topic, but we're going to start talking about the topic, which is we're actually following up after last week, which was how to build a long campaign. We're going to be talking about what to do as your next game after a long campaign. Because, you know, obviously whether or not you've been there yet, you're going to tell this great epic story around, I think we said Necromancer.
Yeah, we did.
And, you know, you can't follow it up with another great epic story about a necromancer.
Yeah, that's a no-no. I guess my first advice to every storyteller is after you tell a nice long campaign, even if you're telling a short campaign, you know, you don't want to follow up unless the short campaign is supposed to be a series with like a main through line. But I think we'll talk about that later.
We have a topic about that. Yeah.
Really, you just want to make sure that you do rule number one, do something different. You know, your players have had a year and a half of chasing this necromancer across a continent.
Or your great villain, whatever you want.
Your great villain, you know, the siren or whatever.
They've found friends. They've you know, seen people die along the way. All sorts of other
love,
things.
loss, and
it's a really heavy game. The moment that you leave that game, your players are going to be wanting, most likely, more of that game.
Yeah.
And you don't want to recreate it with just new characters. And when you force your characters into creating new characters, they're just not going to have the same level of attachment to the character.
They're not. That is for certain. And that's why go back, listen to our episode on the epic endings, on doing epilogues, because really what you need to do is create that solid divide between that was the old game. It's finished. We did a great job. We loved it. The epilogue really brings a lot of closure. That epic ending brings closure to the game. So, they know their characters will live on. In the legends and tales of that land, those characters will live on. And in your memories. That's why it's so key to have a really solid ending. So one of the things that you're going to do is make sure that you are going with something different. Thematically, mood. I'm not saying a different setting. Sometimes it's cool to play off an old setting that you've established. It might satiate some of the players who are like, I really miss that old game. Because it's kind of cool to visit a town as a different character and maybe in a different time. It's 4 years after the heroes have done their journey. And you can always throw like little widgets in there of like, oh, you're adventurers. About a year ago, we had a group of adventurers in here. I hope you rise to their challenge. So setting is something that I will say you don't have to necessarily break with, but you do want to create the deviation or the division that this is a new game. One thing that you're going to have, Aaron brought up a good point, like people like, oh man, I really loved this character and I'm not so attached. I want to play my old character. That's a firm can't do. Those characters, unless you're doing a sequel to your 2-year long campaign, and that's an entirely different topic in itself. And actually, it is kind of related. Do I do a sequel?
But the whole thing with the sequel, and if you're going to even think about doing a sequel to the game that you just did,
there has to be a break.
You did this with there has to be a break. And even when you do this, I would not advise going from one long campaign directly into another. I would separate it by some one shots. Let the memory, still linger with the old campaign before you put characters and players back into a new campaign. Because especially if you're gonna go long campaign to long campaign, you just have to have some division. Whether that be, you've given this podcast to your other gaming group, and somebody else is going to rise up and tell some stories for a little bit. Get somebody else, or tell a different story. Tell a romp. Tell something that's fun that you can do with any characters. Okay, everybody make level 5 characters. Everybody make rank 3 characters. Everybody make vampires, and you put dots wherever the hell you want to put them.
Having a secured break is important, because here's one of the things. You've used a lot of creative juices for the last 2 years or year, or heck, even 6 months is a decently long campaign. 6 months. What you need to do is realize you got to. My wife is a therapist. If you guys didn't know, you need to initiate some self-care. Which means you have been driving and creatively going after it, and you might feel like I could roll right into the next campaign. I do want to give you the advice of take some time for you.
It's experienced GM advice right here.
Take some time for you, because you might feel like you could dive into the next 2-year campaign. You might feel motivated and clear-headed and creatively juiced. Just be sure, because you never know, you start planning another 2-year long campaign, but the battery's only got 6 months of charge in it. That's why you want to preemptively take a little time for you. And Aaron kind of touched on some of the key points. First, what I want you to do is look to the other storytellers of your group. You have provided 2 solid years, a year, 6 months of entertainment on the Friday night. You have brought it. You came to an end. Let somebody else try to take the seat for, a few weeks. Maybe, whatever they want to establish.
Set no expectation with this. Use this more of as an experimentation period.
Yes. Oh my God. And this is a great time to experiment. We've just done a long campaign. Let's experiment with some stuff. Maybe try out a new game system, like, moving from White Wolf or D&D to, Star Wars, or move from Star Wars to the City of Mist, which is a system that I can't wait for one day that we play. This is a great time to start experimenting, reaching out, looking at different game systems that have inspired you over those 2 years. Like, for example, we right now are running White Wolf, and we're running this detective series, and I am so in love with it. Like, the idea of doing another game is very distasteful for me at this point. I'm like, a different game, please.
We'll eventually
be playing
roll
this till
into
we're 50.
We'll eventually roll into it. There will be a point when we hit something else with it, but it's not there yet.
I'm sorry. Like, in my brain, like I said, this is distasteful for me. I'm like, we'll be doing this until we're 50. We'll consider a week break when I've reached my 50th birthday. Good sir. That's how this is gonna roll. Because like I love this game, and I'm having just so much fun and creatively. Oh my God, it just lets me run wild. One of the things, but I am reading other books. For example, I've really gotten into some of the games produced by Free Liga. They are a role-playing publisher out of Sweden, and they've come out with 2 games that have really just kind of, I'm like, whoa, or 3 games actually. And forgive me, I can't remember the name of the third one. It is a Swedish name. All their books are in English, so it's not like, well, Jared's Swedish, maybe he speaks Swedish. I mean, like, I can say a prayer in Swedish. So that's about the extent of my Swedish. Because family, you got to be able to say grace in Swedish. So I'm not gonna break into my Swedish. But all their books are in English. The settings are all based in. Not all. They do have off settings. For example, let's look at Tales of the Loop. It has its own TV show. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. So Tales of the Loop is very much along the line of, if you're like, I've never heard of this show, it's very much along the line of Stranger Things. I mean, like, honestly, if you've seen Stranger Things, it's very akin. And it's a very cool system. So this is a time that you could be like, hey, guys, I've seen this while I was storytelling, and I kind of want to try it out. And at this point, your players, they've had 2 years of you doing a certain game. It is my hope and desire that your players would be like, man, let's give him something that he wants,
Yeah, the nice thing about the Long Chronicle, in a way, is that your players will oftentimes see things. So there's a good and a bad to it. The good in it is, if you have any other aspiring GMs in your group, they will want to run a story. Okay, they will see what you did. You stepped up, you did it. They will want to try and emulate and do the same. Okay, the downfall to it is that if you have any players in your group who say that we want to be GMs, but we can't ever do what you just did.
Oh God, I hate that. I hate that because it's people putting themselves down. The human condition is so unique and so amazing and so beautiful. Oh my God. Philosophy with GM Jared. Humans are such beautiful creatures. We are. If you're listening to this podcast, I hope you understand just how beautiful and unique you are. Humans are so beautiful, unique, and when players look at other storytellers and say, I can never do that, I can never rise to that occasion. Yes, you can. the human beings have overcome the age of saber-toothed tigers with nothing but fire and a sharpened stick. You can rise to the occasion. There's unlimited potential in humans. And the thing is, for you as a storyteller, when you hear that from one of your people, metaphysically slap them in the face. That's my hope that what you will do. Not physically. Do not slap them in the face. Encourage them. Provide them that courage, because these are your friends, and your friends should never say like, oh, I'll never, it's great. Aaron is a very fit person. I used to be a very fit person. There was a time where it was Jared with muscles up to his neck. Jared with the guns and the chest. It was the gun show. My inflatable chest.
Every time I came over, it was the gun show and the inflatable chest. I got it.
After I bench press my chest, for some odd reason, just it swells even now. But Aaron never discourages me. He knows I want to lose some weight that I've gained. This is what 40 or 8 years of teaching will do to you. You will gain weight. I never understood like the teachers who were fit, except for the gym teachers, because let's be honest, they don't do anything. They're cone jackies. I said it. Oh, I said it. Aaron's looking at me like, we're going to lose a gym teacher.
I'm like, if we have a gym teacher who's listening to this podcast, you can
write me a letter.
Yeah, you write into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com email, and go ahead and tell Jared off.
Go ahead. Tell me off. I don't bring it. Click your stopwatch. Come on, bring it.
Also, please keep listening.
Yes, I do apologize. Actually, you do have I'm kidding, because there were gym teachers that I've worked with who were absolutely fantastic. And they really did care about kids' physical fitness. So I'm sorry. I've worked with some bad gym teachers. I've worked with some great gym teachers. So I should take that back. I'm going to reel that back. Feel so mea culpa. I apologize.
Mea culpa about 30 seconds after you
oh my God. Okay, but back on topic. Help your players rise to the occasion, to that time. Encourage them, go back to, I forget what podcast we talked about, encourage them to do a 1 session, a 2 session, give them the podcast for running a 1 shot, and be like, just follow these simple steps and you can go. Heck, even our side stories, how to improve your side stories, is a great podcast for them to listen to tell them how to create a 1 to 4 game.
That game could be a 1-shot. The one that we talked about there could.
Susan the Living God.
It could very well be a 1-shot.
I loved that story. I'm sorry. Like, that was one of my finest.
A noble asks you to ask your group to escort them. You don't have to worry about the gathering. You say your group's a group, and
yeah, you're a group of mercenaries, and you've been together for 5 years. Boom, you're gathered.
Gathered. Yeah, you don't need to do a lot of work in there. And again, the problem with the long campaign, when the players try to follow it up, is the players see it and they go, I just can't ever do it. I just can't ever do it. And then, but they can. The thing
they can, and it's not a competition.
The thing is, it's not a competition, and I'm not expecting you. Again, this is a time for experimentation. Try something out. I'm not expecting you to tell a long campaign. I just want you to tell a story. I just want you to tell a story to entertain some people. Give me a little bit of time to rebuild my creative juices, okay? And, give everyone else a break. Let somebody else, let them experience, the angle and the experience from a different storyteller. And again, share this with your gaming group.
Yes,
okay? Share this podcast with your gaming group, because we do. I did tell stories in our group.
Yeah, you did.
I never told a lot of stories in our group. Jared was, until 3 years ago, the de facto GM.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is with storytelling, the more you do it, the more confidence you gain.
The more you see the tricks that you use to do it, the more. Yeah. I mean, it starts to make more sense. You don't want your players, if your players are going to jump into the storytelling thing, don't just have them do it once. Have them do it a couple of times, because the more they do it, they'll start figuring it out.
And they need the tricks. They need the toolboxes that, our podcast and many other podcasts like us provide, like cheating. I give them any episode. I think I bring up how much I cheat at least once an episode of how I fudge rolls in my players' favor.
And even if it's a 1-shot that they do, I mean, like, it doesn't even have to be a really challenging 1-shot, as long as it's, filled with a lot of combat and you just boom, explosions. I mean, you can Michael Bay this shit. Okay?
Michael Bay it. Just, it's nothing but explosions and gunfire, and it's a good time had by all. Or it's a scary romp through a haunted house. It's, whatever gets the players going. It's an adventure through a wondrous land on the back of a flying whale. Wow, I'm using a lot from our side story campaign.
You're bringing them all back. The flying whale's back.
The flying whale is back. So encourage them for the 1, the 2. Maybe say, hey guys, let's just go around the circle once. Everyone tell a 1 or 2 shot. If you've got a gaming group of 8, that's 2 months. If you've got a gaming group of 4, that's still a month. Everyone goes around the circle twice. That's again back to 2 months.
And again, just set some simple expectations there. Just be like, listen, I'm not looking for you to run a 50, session game, with a beginning, middle, end, and all that craziness. Run a one shot. Run a 3 session story. Run something compact and tight and good.
Yeah, and the thing is. And I do want to bring this up. If you have a group that is adamant, like, no, we can't do this. We can't. You don't have one single person who's willing to step up to the bar. Plan some activities together as friends that don't involve gaming, because you do have to self-care. Like Aaron, Brian, and I always do zombie movie nights. We love bad zombie movie nights. We actually have trouble finding bad zombie movies because we watch so many.
We watched a lot of them, and Blockbuster's out of business now.
Blockbuster's out of business, but there's Netflix.
Yeah, but Netflix is not quite this. I mean,
it's not walking around.
It's back in the day when Blockbuster was a thing. You used to be able to walk around the outside part of Blockbuster, and you would find them, and you go, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, that's a good one. You'd come out with about 5 of them, and then we'd decide based on those 5 which ones we were going to do. It's a little bit harder with Netflix because to dig deep into Netflix takes some time.
It does. It takes more time than walking around a store, which is hilarious. So the plan some activities, maybe just a get-together and a good night of just having fun, like not a house party. Like Aaron and I can just hang out for hours. We hang out for hours.
We can hang out for hours. I mean, we're friends. If you want to be more
Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart games. Try and do something else with your gaming group. Potentially also if you don't have players who want to GM, very adamant about not GMing, or even if they're thinking about potentially doing it, but they just don't have enough time to lead up to it, do like a development night. Okay,
that'd be great. Great idea.
Pop up and be like, hey, listen, I was the de facto GM. I'm willing to give anybody here an ear. If you want to ask questions, we can kind of put things together. What you want to do as a group is you kind of want to spitball and get yourself some ideas for games, things that people would like to do as a group, and then put it together. And so like that might give other GMs a good idea.
That's a great idea. I mean, getting together. Excuse me for a second. Sorry, allergies. So, getting together as a group of friends and throwing ideas off each other. Everyone's just going to sit in. We're all going to kind of design our little one shots together. Mm-hmm. I have a great time actually sitting with Aaron, because sometimes we do, after a game we'll sit and we'll just chat for a couple hours, but I'll work on game stuff while I'm chatting with Aaron. And when Brian was here, we would chill out for hours after game. And it's just ideas and throwing it, because then it gives everyone that courage that we're in this as a group. Hey, Jack, I want to do that. What's that one game that you really like? Oh, City of Mist. Oh, I read that book 50 times. Well, can I run one? Yeah, let me tell you all about it. And it gets everyone psyched off each other's energy. Because storytelling shouldn't be in a vacuum. It shouldn't be this wanderer down the road with pouring rain. I carry this large load by myself. No, you are, your friends are there with you, and they should join you on this journey, and you should welcome them to join you on your journey, because you have to, and it really comes back to, you have to take some time for you and focus on other things. Because if anything, we're talking about upping your level of gaming, and self-care is a huge thing, and having a good balance of taking care of yourself while taking care of the game is so crucially important. So after that long campaign, I do want you to take some time for yourself. Pat yourself on the back, sleep in on Saturday instead of waking up for your 8 a.m. Saturday morning maintenance hour. No, sleep in. Do it. Be bad. So if, getting more back to oh, my voice cracked right there. I was like a 13-year-old. I really hope that didn't just break our listeners' eardrums. So one of the things that I do want you to, look at the session is the differences, maybe experimentation with different systems. Try to look at more compact stories. I don't want you to just jump into, okay, I want to do another 6-monther. No, I want you to look into doing a 4-sessioner. Something that you can just sit back and relax, and you're going to need that development time. I don't want you to move from this great campaign that you had such a fantastic time telling. You came to that ending. You have to reward yourself, because otherwise, if you jump back into just storytelling and hitting the grind, trust me, there's the threat of burnout. I'm creatively burnt out. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Oh my God, I've experienced it so many times.
It was bad, especially when you were really the only GM for our group, is that nobody else could then pick up the reins when you were burnt. We just had to take time.
Yeah,
and believe me, when you love gaming every week, it's tough just to take time. When like, again, the de facto hobby here that we have is on Saturday nights we game.
Yeah, that's our sport.
That's what we do, and when we do it, I love it. I enjoy it immensely. It's brought me great joy over the last 30 years. I mean, it's wonderful.
Over the last 30 years, we've had a great time.
But, I can't expect Jared to spit out stories every week over the last 30 years. He's gotten better at being able to spit out stories on the fly, but effectively what ended up happening early on in our gaming kind of, hobby is you would just kind of be like, okay, let's make some new characters and see what happens.
I've got this idea for a scene, and I would try to rush it together, and typically, 2-3 sessions later,
see what sticks. Yeah, we'd make it through the first night, and at the end of the first night, whether good or bad night of gaming, we'd be making new characters the next week, and new characters the next week. And we were doing this constantly until, again, 5 weeks later, you eventually hit something that had traction, and then we moved with it.
And that's just not the way to do it. And that's what's great about this podcast and why I love doing it so much. Because if this sounds like your group or what you're doing, like, oh, we do, we have, excuse me. Sorry, that was right into the mic. I feel bad for our listeners on this one. So, one of the things that, I've done that. And if this sounds like you need to break that. And what you need to do is get the other people involved, because I've done that so many times, where it was literally, oh, this one got traction. Let's move forward on this one, and it last for maybe a couple more nights rather than 2.
Sometimes it'd be 3 nights, sometimes it'd be 5 nights. You always, and then a lot of times after a long campaign, you'd always have to shut it down. Like, we'd have to stop gaming for like 2 or 3 weeks. And again, we tried to be. You're like, I need a break. There's several times when you needed a break.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that your main GM in your group, they're typically a very creative person. Okay, if you're a player listening to this, they're typically a very creative person. They're always thinking of new ideas.
Oh God,
they're
always.
Well, I'm speaking for Jared here. What I did notice is that if I could step up to the plate and provide something that would last 4 or 5 sessions, Jared would be ready to jump back in the saddle. He needed usually about 3 to 5 sessions to really kind of feel like, I got it. I've got an idea. This is going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, he was always trying to build the long campaigns. If you're trying to build smaller stories, go the episodic route. It's a lot easier to build something.
Oh my God.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's just a hell of a lot easier to build something that only goes 4 sessions, because you've got you know all the hooks, you know everywhere which way that it's going to go. It's just more. It's just easier to envision.
It's a complete package, you know. It's because, you know, go back to our podcast on the long campaign, where most of it is kind of a mystery when you first start. Like, you're like, okay, I've got my first month of games done, or first month of sessions done, and I know what I'm doing for session 104. Yeah, 104. I know what I'm doing for that. But then you've got, you know, 100 or 99 sessions that are like, I have no clue what I'm doing. It's a lot of ambiguity, and there's a lot of room for changes and stuff like that. When you've got a 4-session game, it's the complete package. This is what it's going to be. You know, I think Aaron and I, God, did we discuss this on the podcast? No, we didn't. You know, there's a game out. My brother and I are huge fans of the Alien series. Every Christmas, without fail, we have watched one of the Aliens, because my brother lives in California. And when he flies in, every Christmas we have watched an Aliens movie together. There has to be. We are such titanic fans of the series. I could literally do the second one in interpretive dance. It's that bad. So if you're like me, you know, God bless you. It's a freaking amazing series. I've jumped into the comics and all that stuff. I'm very inspired to do an Aliens game. I am actually not planning a huge campaign around it. For the first time, outside of the detective series in my life, I'm like, I'm going to aim for 4 sessions. That's what I'm going to aim for. 4 sessions. Because, again, I don't think the detective series are going to let go until I'm 50. That's my goal. But, you know, just to do something different, have a little bit of fun. Right now, I'm not developing it. I'm gathering some ideas from the books and stuff like that. It's an entirely new system, an entirely new environment, you know, and, heck, entirely new universe. And it really... what I'm excited to do it, but I'm only doing a 4-session thing, and that's the advantage of episodic, because I can really create a very awesome game for 4 sessions. And literally, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to start development on it. Right now, I'm developing a story for our detective game. Right now, it's looking probably around 5 sessions or so, 5 maybe, you know. But my last game, I was like, I want 5 sessions. Went for 7. That was fantastic. You know, I think I really wanted that 8 for some odd reason. I don't know why I wanted that. Maybe it's an even number thing.
I don't know. However many sessions you were going for, it
exceeded expectations.
It exceeded expectations, and it was fantastically done.
You know, it's funny. You design these games with certain expectations, like, and that's something that I've also learned over the years. Developing games with expectation, with the idea of scope. Yeah, throwing out those project management terms. I want 4 sessions. All I'm going for is a solid base hit. I want to get to first base, maybe second. I want a double. That's all I want. Not, you know, because I think a lot of storytellers walk into games and they're like, I want a grand slam all the way through the bleachers into the other city. That's how bad I want to hit this out of the park.
Again, your players determine whether or not it's a grand slam.
Yeah, they're going to determine that. My goal is, like, I just want a solid base hit. Like, I now make games where literally, like, I'm bunting for time. Our first game of the 3rd part of the detective series, I was like, this is a bunt for time, you know, and I think, to be perfectly honest, the game was a bunt. It wasn't the best game I've ever done. But, you know, this one, I was like, I want a solid base hit. And I don't know, you know, I wanted to get to first base. I wanted first base, and I wanted about 4 to 5 weeks. I got 7. And Aaron, what would you say? Was it a double, triple?
I thought it was a great game. I thought it was
home run.
Yeah, I'd give you a home run for it.
All right, so there you go. It exceeded my expectations. I'm extraordinarily happy about that. And I'm now moving on to my next game. So during that time, I was developing my next game. That's done. I have literally got that thing in Roll20, sitting there, ready to go. Music, maps, NPCs, dramatic situations, timeline, everything.
Which is great because I'm about to run a game, and my game's probably only two sessions, maybe 3, because you guys are slow sometimes, and you take your sweet ass time.
But I'm already moving on to my next game. So my third game, that one I expect maybe 5 sessions, and I'm really going because the last 2 games I've not done so much horror. I've done more the adventure feel. This one I'm going for straight. I want to scare Aaron and Brian out of their socks. That's what I want to do, and so I'm building towards that. That's my expectation. I want a good triple, and I want a triple to be scary.
And again, this all ties back into what you're trying to do here is you're trying to experiment in this time after the long
yes
campaign. And whether it be, again, if you're a D&D group, you love D&D, whatever edition you play, just remember that if you ran a campaign that was 2 years long, you all got to level 20, whatever your max level was in your game. If you adapted some other rules for it, if you did all of that and you did that, your players are going to be so attached to those characters that I would highly suggest, if you don't have another person who wants to run a game, to then just do another game system. Okay,
that's a great idea.
Just try another game system for a little while. Have another one in your back pocket. See if you can pick one up and just do something short in another game system.
And if I may piggyback on that, the great thing about bringing a new kind of system is nobody knows how the dice roll. Everyone's learning.
It's a learning experience.
And there's so many storytellers out there that are like, I want my story to be Tolkien. I want it to be the Mona Lisa. I've even gotten trapped in that. And then when we started reevaluating how we do game, how we do stories, and I realized that it isn't about making a Mona Lisa or creating the perfect Tolkien environment of a game, and it's really about seeing Aaron, Brian, Ken smile and laugh and have a good time. All of a sudden, my fear of doing a new system just faded away because all I can see is in the future, when we do the Aliens game, is us laughing because we're screwing up dice rolls left and right.
Oh, we're gonna be messing up dice rolls. We're gonna botch up some rule in the game, and it's gonna be great. Which is fun. It's fine. It's a time to experiment with something different, and a time to break away from the long game that you just did.
Yes.
Whether it means that your next game, your next bigger game is going to be another long campaign.
Yeah.
A sequel.
Same characters.
Again, we had sequels with your Shattered Sphere game. That was 3 parts.
That was 3 parts.
I mean, your first part was completely incoherent at a lot of times. It was hard to follow. Your second part was...
Yeah. But it was a good one.
It was good. It was fun because it was so weird.
It was. That was what I was going for.
That was what made it really good. And then the second game, you experimented with something different, okay, that wasn't as good, I feel. It still had the same weirdness, but it wasn't as good. It was
2 and 3 were terrible compared to 1, in my personal opinion.
Yes. The best.
I love how he paused. Yes.
the best part about the first game was
I was high on Vicodin like half the time.
So I knew no, but the best part about the first game was the part that sticks out to me the most was we learned who the bad guy was. We learned it through the way that it was done. It was more or less a Christopher Nolan film.
It was.
Okay. We were jumping around in different times and different events and different situations. Jared always had a key in his back pocket to be able to undo a bad situation.
Oh, it was great.
It was the ultimate cheating
tool. It rewinded like it in the game happened often was that it would just, you would do a scene and then literally I would rewind that scene and it'd start all over again. And people, because it was me experimenting with time and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm a huge fan of temporal theory. And it was, I would just rewind the whole scene. And if it went bad, it would rewind again. It was great.
And again, this is a campaign that was built off of literally a one-shot game. Jared was just running something for us that night.
Yeah, and because I'd forgotten why I had gotten prescribed Vicodin. I think I had gotten my wisdom teeth out.
I think it was your wisdom teeth, yeah.
And I wanted a game. I wanted to be with my friends. I mean, I was doped up on Vicodin because they pulled out 2 wisdom teeth, and this was the game I produced. And I had a blast.
But many sessions into it, we're sitting in front of this guy. He's the leader of the mage group. It's called the Chantry in White Wolf. We had been in the future or some other timeline or period where we knew that he was the bad guy, and we're sitting there and we're talking with him, and we're like, he knows we know. He knows we know.
And this is the conflict that we always talk about. You know, that was the conflict for the night, was that they would be sitting in his office and he knows that they know, and they know that he knows that they know. And what do you do with a person who, has the capability to just roll you? And of course, in that opportunity, the villain, he was all about that cat and mouse game. He liked the cat and mouse game.
He played a cat and mouse game with us, and we got to jump around and do other things. It was just a really fun game. But again, it was a game that when we hit the end of it, we couldn't just roll back into the next game.
No, we couldn't. We had to take a break.
Jared had to take a break. We did other games. We did other systems. Thankfully, in White Wolf, you had the options of doing like werewolves, vampires, all sorts of different things.
Vampires, mages, Scion.
Yeah. So there's other options to be able to do that, and then you rolled into the next game after we had a sufficient break. And it also gave you time to develop that next game. The next game had more of a coherent story to it.
Yeah, it had more of a coherent story, but it lacked the theme and the mood of the first one, and that's where I feel that it failed. But one of the things when you're going after that the game after the game, had I given myself more of an appropriate break, allowed other storytellers to step in, I think that I could have produced a lot more. I guess that's kind of our theme for this episode is, take that break, try to welcome some other storytellers to the table. If you can't do that, you can either bunt, make some bunt games. I'm making time. I want to get together as a group, experiment, go out bowling with your friends.
This is also the era of online gaming with, you can join games on Roll20. So if your group wants to hop in with a different storyteller.
Oh, man, how cool would that be? How cool would that be? This is the age of online. Roll20 is a great platform. I love the platform. Just so you all know, we're not sponsored by Roll20, so I'm not just saying that as a commercial.
We just use it for right now. I mean, Jared's already looking at other options.
I am. There's such a plethora out there that I'm always looking for the next best thing. Really take that break, let those creative juices. That's my big point for this one, is you have to initiate self-care after that long one. Because here's the thing. I don't want you to step into the next story, be like, well, I'm going to tell another 2-year campaign. And that 2-year campaign, that good idea that you had, that creative juice you had flowing, gets drizzled out because you didn't take care of yourself. Please look at that and ways to make sure that you're taking care of you after, and it's kind of that reward. You did 2 years. You ended it. It's time to reward you a little bit. So I think that's the point that I want to end on.
All right. Well,
for me.
I think that's a good way to end it right there. So if you do like the podcast, you want to give us your feedback, your ideas, your suggestions, your comments on the episode or the show in general, levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com is our email. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Please follow us there. Review our podcast on your favorite podcasting site. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your players. I keep saying that. This is really not a joke. You should share it with your players, especially if you need somebody to take over and, try and run a game for you. Because it can be done. Brian is a good example of it. We're going to do a podcast with him somewhere in the future here. And Brian ran a very good, successful game.
It was fantastic.
But anyways, you can also find us on YouTube. Jared?
Smash that like button. Just smash it.
And otherwise, like I said, share it with other people. And we hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. So anyways, for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, guys.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.